Another pretty day here out in the desert. Little breezy, almost 70 degrees, and it's the afternoon. It's probably about 1 o'clock, close to 1 o'clock. And I wanted to introduce this next video. And this next video is the stop that I took when I was, just before I left Oklahoma. So it's just inside the Oklahoma state line. One of the things that I was really into, and I still remain interested in, is history. I am a serious history buff, and one of the side shoots of that is I'm very interested in Native American Indian history, and I have been since probably I was a teenager. One of the incidents that was going on in the 70s when I was coming up as a teenager was what they refer to as Wounded Knee 2. And I remember that very distinctly. And I remember watching, the news and seeing what was going on. And I think that was probably a catalyst as to why I got so interested in Native American history. I'm not sure, but I think that was probably one of the things. And after that, I tried to read as much as I could on Native American history. And one of them was a book, actually, one of many books, I'm sure, that was dealt with the Native American history of the whole continent. And in it was a whole chapter on what happened at this next stop. And so when I was driving by it, I had to stop and see. And so I did, and I decided that we would make this a separate video because of the gravity of what happened there. And so I am humbled to say that I was able to pay my respects to the men, women, and children who lived there and lost their lives there. And so this is a very, very special tribute to them. And to say that we can't forget what happened in history. I don't care how ugly it is all our history. And it is very, very important that we remember it. And we just learn from it. Because if you don't, like the saying says, if you don't learn from history, you're doomed to repeat it. So I wanted to present this with all the gravity that I could possibly do. One thing I would like to recommend is if you're more interested in what happened, the catalyst event that happened that I think drove me to really try and read as much as I could about American Indian history, was a book written by Peter Matheson, and it really it illustrates what happened in 1973. And I think I read the book in the 80s. It was much later when I got to read the book, but it's a very important good book, and it's very well done. And maybe if you can find it, it might be out of print, but if you can find it, it's well worth the read. And like I said, I think that was the reason that I really, really wanted to find out more, because we certainly didn't learn it in history. We touched on a couple of things that happened in history, but so it was really a self discovery to see what was hidden from us, and with the incoming administration and the people that surround it that want to whitewash history, you really need to keep these places and keep them so that people can see them and understand what happened. So, without further ado, I'll take you there. So we're headed toward Cheyenne, Oklahoma, and to a very historic site that does have some connection to my son. And it's about 15 Oklahoma really surprised me because I really didn't think Oklahoma was as varied terrain-wise as it looks. I thought Oklahoma was all just flat prairie land, but the eastern part is really forested, small hills, and now this western part is typically what I would have thought Oklahoma would look like. It's very interesting. It's an interesting state. Those turbines are big, huge. They're going pretty fast. Historical marker 1 mile. I wonder what the historical marker says. I wonder if it has reference to this site. Isn't that beautiful? That is just beautiful. Certainly different. It is certainly different. Isn't that beautiful? That's the historical marker right there. There's nobody coming. Let's see what it says.
In 1,000 feet, turn right onto East 1070 Road.
Look at this countryside. And look at that sunrise. So let's see what this historical marker says. Oklahoma Sandstone Creek area. World's first upper stream flood prevention project completed in 1953. Roger Mills Company, 68,770 acres drainage. my goodness. This is Black Kettle Memorial Highway. Washita Battlefield National Historic Site. Black Kettle and McClellan Creek National Grasslands. And that is the Visitor Center. Open 8 a.m. till 4:30 p.m. This is the Washita. It's here that people were killed, murdered, village trampled. Washita Battlefield. National Historic Site.
In 200 feet, turn right onto Oklahoma 47 alternate west.
So we are here. This is the site of the massacre of the native population, the Cheyenne, at Washita. And this is the monument to it, the reminder to it. And this is the monument. The Battle of the Washita, 1868, Black Kettle, George A. Custer. The Battle of the Washita, a major engagement in the Plains Indian War, which established the western expansion of the United States, was fought on this site. Colonel George A. Custer's command of 500 troops from the 7th Cavalry and a detachment of scouts, including the famed Ben Clark and the Osage Hardrope, destroyed Chief Black Kettle's Cheyenne village here on November 27, 1868. Black Kettle, peace leader of the Southern Cheyennes, had sought military assurance that he would not be attacked here. There were in his camp, however, young men who had taken part in the war parties raiding in Kansas. Custer's command left Camp Supply on November 23rd. His scouts located the Cheyenne village on the night of November 26th after a forced march through a bitterly cold blizzard and deep snow. Custer deployed his command to surround the village, and at dawn, with the regimental band playing Gary Owen, swept in to attack the sleeping Cheyennes. The number of Indians killed in the fight is a point of controversy. Custer claimed 103 warriors. In the report to the Secretary of the Interior, 1869 to 70, Cheyenne set the total at 13 men, 16 women, and 9 children, including Black Kettle and his wife. Captain Louis Hamilton, grandson of Alexander Hamilton, was one of the 2 officers killed. Major Joel Elliott and a squad of troopers in pursuit of fleeing Cheyennes were trapped in Sergeant Major Creek, beyond a mile from the village, and killed to the last man. The Cheyenne lodges and winter supplies of food and buffalo robes were burned, while 875 of their horses were slaughtered. At nightfall, the cavalry turned toward Camp Supply with 53 women and children captives. This is hallowed ground. I remember reading about this when I was a kid. There was a book on Native American history that I read, and I remember being horrified. And I just could never understand how people can do that. These were people, the soldiers were people who fought. These same soldiers fought to free the black man and had no qualms about killing the red man. It's so sad. It is so sad to think all that happened here. Just one of many places. I remember, if you want a somewhat Hollywood-style version of what went on here, there was a movie that Dustin Hoffman was in called Little Big Man. And it is a Hollywood version of it, of the battle. But it will give you some idea if you haven't seen it or can't imagine it. It will give you some idea to the amount of atrocities that happened. It does play a little bit on the reputation of Custer. The Battle of the Washita. A clash of cultures. At dawn on the morning of November 27th, 1868, the noise and chaos of a U.S. cavalry attack interrupted the peaceful quiet of the scene you see before you. When the sun set that evening, approximately 40 Cheyenne men, women, and children, and 22 soldiers were dead, and the southern Great Plains was a very different place. The sound of hundreds of army horses crunching through ice-covered snow alerted the camp of, I can't pronounce his native name, Chief Black Kettle, that something was wrong. With a woman's scream and a gunshot, the soldiers knew that they had been discovered, and the charge into the village began. In the initial attack, Black Kettle and his wife, Medicine Woman, later climbed on a horse tied near their lodge and started to ride downstream. Almost immediately, they were shot from their horse, falling dead into the icy waters of the Washita River. Lieutenant Colonel Custer rode through the village, reporting later that he killed one warrior as he made his way to the small knoll that overlooks the village. From there, he issued orders to his troops, watched as they rounded up 53 Cheyenne women and children as prisoners, and burned the camp and all its contents. The attack had lasted less than 30 minutes. Cheyenne prisoners from Washita at Fort Hays, Kansas, spring 1869. As the sun climbed overhead, the hills to the north were soon covered with warriors from other villages downstream. These Arapaho, Cheyenne, Kiowa, and Comanche warriors watched in horror as the soldiers shot and killed over 800 horses and ponies belonging to Black Kettle's camp. This was done to prevent their use by other tribes and serve as a warning not to raid into Kansas. Moving behind, a young girl hiding in the grass and snow said later that it sounded like humans crying as the ponies were shot and slowly died. Running on ammunition and realizing that he was in danger of being surrounded, Custer marched his command downstream toward the other camps. With the warriors thinking their own villages were in danger, they retreated, and Custer turned around and left the field. Now all that was left in the fading light was the smoldering ruins of a camp, the dead and dying. The captives were taken to Kansas, and soon the nomadic ways of the Southern Plains tribes would be gone forever. Washita Battlefield National Historic Site was created in 1996 to preserve this important site. The mission of the National Park Service is to preserve America's cultural and natural heritage for present and future generations, to provide educational opportunities for all people. So this is Cheyenne, Oklahoma. We've just finished visiting the battlefield, the Washita battlefield. And what a place that is. Just so emotional. Out of respect for what happened there, I stopped filming once I filmed the 2 plaques that were there. I didn't think it would be proper to film anything more. It is just so sad to think what happened there, and 100, maybe 1,000 other places in this country. And now that this new administration wants to whitewash a lot of what happened in the history, they're taking out books and out of libraries and out of schools, and they're rewording things. They're taking out exhibits in museums to whitewash what happened in history, which is very sad because history is a part of us and it's all who we are. It's quite an emotional place. Small little town in the Oklahoma prairie. There's a one-room school over there too. Interesting. to head back and continue. I love finding these little places that are out of the way. And maybe I'll do this just as a single little video. And not fill it with other stuff. This is an emotional place. The red clay.